மார்கழி திங்கள் மதி நிறைந்த நன்னாளால், மார்கழி திங்கள் மதி நிறைந்த நன்னாளால், மார்கழி திங்கள் மதி நிறைந்த நன்னாளால், நீராட போதுவீர் பொதுமினோ நேரிழையீர். மார்கழி திங்கள் மதி நிறைந்த நன்னாளால், நீராட போதுவீர் பொதுமினோ நேரிழையீர். சீர்மல்குமாய் பாடி சீர்மல்குமாய் பாடி செல்வச் சிறுமீர்காள், சீர்மல்குமாய் பாடி செல்வச் சிறுமீர்காள், கோர்வில் கொடுந்தொழிலன் நந்தகோபன் குமரன், கோர்வில் கொடுந்தொழிலன் நந்தகோபன் குமரன். ஏறாத கண்ணே யசோத இளஞ்சிங்கம், கார்மேனி செங்கண் கதிர்மதியம் போல் முகத்தான். ஏறாத கண்ணே யசோத இளஞ்சிங்கம், கார்மேனி செங்கண் கதிர்மதியம் போல் முகத்தான். நாராயணனே நமக்கெப்பரு தருவான், நாராயணனே நமக்கெப்பரு தருவான். பாரோர் புகழ படிந்தேலோரெம்பாவாய், பாரோர் புகழ படிந்தேலோரெம்பாவாய்.
श्रीशैलेश दयापात्रं दिभक्त्यादि गुणार्णवं Yatindra Pravanam Bande Ramyaja Mataram Munim Lakshmi Nada Samarambham Natayamana Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryandham Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityam Achyudapadam Bhujayukma Rukma Vyamohatastathitarani Trinaya Mene Asmadgurur Bhagavadosya Dayeka Sintoho Ramanujasya Sharanau Sharanam Prapatye Mata Pita Yuvadayas Dhanaya Vibhudihi Sarvam Yadeva Niyamena Matanvayanam Atyasya Nahulapader Vakulaviramam Srimattatangra Yuhalam Pranamami Murdhanam Bodham Sarascha Mahadahvaya Bhattanada Shri Bhaktisara Kulasekara Yogi Vahan Bhaktangrirenu Parakala Yatintra Mishran Shrimat Parangushamunim Pranatosmi Nityam Nila Dungastanagari Dadi Suptamukpokya Krishnam Paratyam Swam Shridi Sadasira Siddha Matyapayanti Swachishtayam Srajanigalidam Ya Balatkradaya Punte Godatasye Nama Idam Bhuya Evastu Bhuya Annavayal Budavai Andal Arangarku Pannu Thiruppavai Palpatiyam Innishayal Padi Kuduttal Narpamale Pumale Chudi Kuduttale Chullu Chudi Kudutta Shudargudiye Tolvavai Padi Orula Valla Valvalayai Nadini Venkadavarku Ennai Vidiyanna Immatram Nam Kadava Vanname Nalgu. Namaskaram to all. With the great anugraham of Sri F.Padi, Srimaan Narayanan and Periyavaratiar, the new Margazhi month has started. On this occasion, with the anugraham of Purva Acharyas and Periyavaratiar and Sri F.Padi Srimaan Narayanan, Adiyan is blessed here to be with all the Acharyas to share and talk about the great Prabandham of Thiruppavai, Andal's Thiruppavai, in this month of Margazhi. Normally, when the month of Margazhi, when one utters, immediately that comes to mind is two things, Thiruppavai and Andal. Margazhi month, Thiruppavai and Andal are inseparable things. And also it makes us these 30 days of Margazhi month in Tamil calendar being useful in our life by listening to, chanting, and also to listen to the Upanyasams of Thiruppavai from great Acharyas during these 30 days. Even though it is said that this Thiruppavai should be chanted on a daily basis, as it is a seed for all the Vedas. Purvacharyas tells. Vedam anaithirkum vittahum kodai Tamil is what Acharyas tells. So it is the seed for all the Vedas, and the 30 Pasurams or 30 poems written by Andal in this Thiruppavai is equivalent to all these Vedas. That's why it makes us useful by chanting and also to listening to Thiruppavai. Andal is one of the Alvars in the Vaishnavism. She was born in Srivilliputtur near Madurai in a flower garden of another Alvar, Sri Periyalvar, Sri Vishnu Chittar. She was found near a Tulasi plant on the day of a Tamil month of Adi Madam, Pura Trinakshatram. Approximately, it comes in July month in the English calendar. And she was found as a small baby, and Periyalvar, she brought her up as his own daughter and named her as Kodai Nachiyar, and she is being with love called by all of us as Andal in the Vaishnavism. Andal has written in the 4000 Divya Prabandham, she has written 2 Prabandhams. The first one is the Thiruppavai, another one is called Nachiyar Thirumozhi. In total, she has written 143 Pasurams or poems out of these 4000. But these 30 Pasurams, not by the count we should go, because there are Alvas Pasurams, even 11 or 12 or even 10 Pasurams are there. And we also have Alvas Pasurams or Prabandhams which are more than 1,000. But each one has got its unique nature. Each one has got the greatness. And it is not by the count, it is by the meaning, and what it gives to us is what that the greatness of all these prabandhams. In that context, Thiruppavai is considered to be the seed of all the Vedas, as Adiyan mentioned, and many Acharyas have given the Upanyasams, Vyakhyanams. They have written in the Purva Acharyas like Sri Periyavachan Pillai, Sri Azhagya Manavala, Nayanar, Peruman Nayanar. There are many of these Acharyas have written Vyakhyanam on Thiruppavai, so many. And that is written in the mixed language of Tamil and Sanskrit, which we call it out as a Prakritam. So every single meaning what they have described needs to be even translated for us, like us who are having the Ajnanam, to be explained. And many of the Acharyas who came later has given books and also written in a simple meaning what are all those internal meanings that what those Acharyas have explained. And later, many of these Upanyasakas like Sri Velugudi Krishnan or many other Upanyasaka Swamis have explained Thiruppavai in a much greater way, and in even every Margazhi month they repeat this because they repeat so many of those inner meanings. This is like an ocean where you can learn the meanings of Thiruppavai. Under these Acharya Purushas and the Upanyasakas and so, Adiyan is a small dust to their lotus feet. Adiyan's intention here is to give this meaning of this Thiruppavai. That's why Adiyan took this in English, to at least convey these messages in a shorter form to our next generation kids or people who cannot understand the deep meaning in Tamil. Purvacharyas have explained the great meaning and of this Thiruppavai. They used to tell 2 hours for each of these Pashurams, all the inner meanings. So it has got so much of that depth, each of these Pashurams. Adiyan's intention here, Adiyan is not going to find something new from what these Acharyas have already explained. Adiyan is trying to gather those informations and trying to summarize this for, at least in a simple form, in a 20-25 minutes for each of these Pashurams, so that the next generation kids can also learn through this process. And also this is a way that we should take our responsibility to grow our sampradayam to the next generation and also the future generation. That's the humble thought with which this series of Thiruppavai in English, to convey a simple meaning. And Thiruppavai cannot be just said with the simple meaning. Simple meaning doesn't mean that one. We are just going to look at the outline. Every Pashuram gives a lot of messages, and Adiyan is trying to summarize what our Purvacharyas and the Upanyasakas have mentioned in a simplest form. What these kids could understand is what a humble try here. And that's the series that we are going to see for the next 30 days with this Margazhi month, which started now. Before we start looking at the Pashurams and the meanings of these Pashurams, it is always important to look at it out as something called Avatharikai. It is nothing new. When you read a book, we always have a preface to the book. So when we wanted to buy a book or when we want to read a book, there is a preface the author has given, or there is a context why this book was written. In a similar way, all the Divya Prabandham written by Alvars have got certain Avatharikai. The reason for which they have written, there is a story behind that. Why this Prabandham was written by Alvar. In such a way that Thiruppavai also has got a preface, which we call it out as Avatharikai. The Avatharikai starts from Thiruppavai like this. It goes into the third incarnation of Srimaan Narayana, which is the Varaha Avataram. This is a Varaha Puranam. The reference in the root of this Thiruppavai starts from the Varaha Avataram. There was a Rakshasa, which is Hiranyakshan. He took the mother earth, Virati, Bhumi Viratya, and he took her and then put it under the ocean. At some point of time, there was no earth. And Brahma, who is having the responsibility to produce all these jivatmas like us, and when he produces the new jivatmas, he has to he has to go back and place it out in this earth. But his job was completely halted because he could not know where to put, because the mother earth was not there. So he went to Sriman Narayana and requested him to solve that problem. So Sriman Narayana took the avataram of Varaga avataram, and then he killed that Rakshasa, and then he brought back Mother Earth, giving the protection to Bhumi Biratiyar, and saved her from the ocean. And she was there for a very longer time, and even with all the slime and algae that it was there. So he protected Mother Earth from this Hiranyaksha, from the ocean. At that time, Bhumi Biratiyar, she is so kind on these human beings and the Jivatma like us. She requested to Emperuman that Emperuman has come from Sri Vaikuntham and protected her. And she would also like to have the same protection to all the Jivatmas who are there in this world. And she was requesting on behalf of us to Emperuman that all of these Jivatmas are undergoing so many of the sorrows. They are having the birth, the death, and they are undergoing samsara, which is the difficulties that they are going in this particular life. And they all have to come to moksham, which is a permanent happiness in Sri Vaikuntham that one can have. And she was requesting and she was praying to Emperuman on behalf of us. So Emperuman replied, I have given the Shastras and instructions of how one should lead, and everybody can come to moksham when they follow the Shastras, and they can live as per the rules, what has been mentioned. But it is very difficult. It's not easy to live. We are not even living in a small fraction of what the Shastras are telling in a normal life, in a materialistic life. So Tayar, she is continuing to request Emperuman that it is very difficult for these people to come in that way, following the Shastras and so on. So there must be some other way by which they could reach moksha. So Emperuman tells there is also another way. There is a Charama Shlokam we call, when this Emperuman himself utters a shloka, which we call it out as a Charama Shloka. And Varaga Charama Shloka, in that one he tells, Stite Manasi Sushvaste Sharire Sadiho Naraha Sadusam Ye Staibe Martha Viswarubam Chamamacham Tatastam Riyamanantu Kashtabashana Sannibau Aham Smarami Madbhaktam Nayami Paramam Katim. The meaning of this shlokam, Emperuman tells that people who are in a normal, when they are in a good health and so on, when they just for 1 minute or one time, if they just remember Sriman Narayana, even one time if I have remembered him, so even during just the period before death, it's normally that just before your death, we call it out as the Antima Smriti. During that time, one should remember Emperuman Sriman Narayana in order to go to moksha. But here, Emperuman is giving that exception class. It doesn't, for these people who have even thought about me, even in a normal health, not even in the Antima Smriti, during the dying time, they don't need to even think about me. Even if they have thought once about me, they will get the moksham from me. So he is telling about that to Biratiyar. And Biratiyar still requests, okay, these people knowing us, even we are not doing that type of a thing. She continues to request what other options are there. And then Emperuman also tells that one, they could just chant my Thirunamam. That is, there are several thousands Thirunamam of Emperuman, so they could chant, and they also think about me in their inner side. So always think about Sriman Narayana and do a Pushpa Kainkaryam. These are the three things, very simple things in a day-to-day life. And later in a Pashuram, Andal sings that one in the Thiruppavai. She tells it out. Vayanal Padi Manathinal Sindithu Thumalar Thuvi. These are the three things one can do in order to get the blessings of Sriman Narayana and go to moksham, is what that Andal. So when Bhumi Biratiyar listened to this one from Varaha Peruman, immediately she thought that And all these things happened in the first yuga, Krita Yuga. So when their sufferings are going to be more, she thought that she should come and help these jivatmas when the sufferings are more. But later, when the Kali Yuga came, the sufferings of jivatmas went very high, because each yuga, the suffering started to grow. And that is the time where she decided to be born into this earth to help these jivatmas, remembering that what Varaha Peruman has told told her that these people can get these blessings when they are able to do this. So she decided to be born as an Alvar, and that is what we call it out as she is a Bhumi Piratiyar's Thiruamsam. That means she is the incarnation of Bhumi Piratiyar in this world, and she was born as a small baby in this flower garden of Periyalvar. So when she decided what is that one she wanted to do, she wanted to create a way for these jivatmas to chant Emperuman's Thiranamam and think about him, and also do a Pushpa Kainkaryam or a Vratam, we call it out as, no, when you are doing it for certain days towards Emperuman. And so she decided to create this Prapantham, which is called Thiruppavai, and somehow she wanted to do that by herself, because she is not going to preach somebody, but she wanted to live like that, and she wanted to create this, and she made that Vridam herself. And then she wanted to show us that how one can reach the lotus feet of Srimaan Narayana. And that is the essence with which the Thiruppavai was started. In a very summary, again I have told, because in the Varaha Charitram, in the Varaha Puranam, there is a great explanation of those conversations between Bhumi Piratiyar and Varaha Peruman. But still, this is the preface towards why Thiruppavai was written by Andal, and she is a real incarnation, or the Thiruamsam of Bhumi Piratiyar, who was born into this earth in this Kali Yuga as a daughter of Periyalvar. And Periyalvar is a great devotee of Kannan, Sri Krishnan, Srimaan Narayanan. So when he brought up this child from 1 year old, more than the food what he fed to this kid, more stories about Kannan he used to tell. All the things what happened in the Kannan's period in the Iyer party, he has told this child. So when this child was 2 to 3 years of old, she heard everything about Kannan, and she had a great devotion, great love towards Kannan. And she even at the age of 4 or 5 years, she even thought that Kannan is everything for her. Even she wants to marry Kannan only, and no other human being that she would think of. And this is how from a childhood she was brought with the great devotion of Kannan. So that got into the mind of this particular baby. So the greatness of the greatness of Andal, the first thing is that Thiruppavai, why the preface, why it started. But many people talk about what is the greatness of Andal, because very quickly in an outer side of it, people will tell that she is the only Alvar which is a female Alvar. All other Alvars are male. But that is only from the Sharira, from the outlook of what we are today. If you look at our inner soul, Atma, everything is a female. They are all Stris. Atmas are Stris. And the only Purushan, Paramapurushan, a Purushottaman, is only Emperuman. So all these Atmas are belonging to him, but only from the Shariram that we look like a male or a female. But even otherwise, so she is from the Shariram that she is a female Alvar. That is okay. But the greatness of Andal in this perspective is that she had the great bhakti towards. There is a different stages of bhakti, Purva Acharyas used to say, and Andal basically passed that particular type of 7 stages of bhakti even in the age of around 6 years or 7 years. Because by history, Andal has been there only for 6 or 7 years. By then, Kannan came and married her, and they went and into the Vaikuntham and also into the Srivilliputturu and making their daily life. This is what Alvas, Purva Acharyas tell. So even in a very smaller age, because she has been listening to Kannan stories, it got into her mind, because you would have seen that what a lot of mothers, they feed their kid by telling a lot of stories or showing pictures, or in olden days, when in these days the kids sits in front of TVs, but in olden days when you are feeding it out, then they are telling about stories. And Periyalvar didn't have any difficulty, because he told many stories of Kannan, and this kid has got that one, everything. Even in the age of 4 or 5 years, she got to the great bhakti. Normally in the 7 level of bhakti, it states Abhilasha, Chintana, Anushkriti, Ichai, Ruchi, Parabhakti, Paramabhakti. These are the 7 stages of the bhakti nilais. Okay, the bhakti goes into the stages. This also goes by the age. So you get into Abhilasha, means you get to know about the bhakti, or towards Emperuman. So you go to the temple, you just start. This is in a very early stages, maybe 3 years, 5 years, like that. And then Chintana, then you think about those Emperumans. And then Anushkriti, this repeatedly comes to our mind. This also into the age, when you are getting into a little bit more age. And then Ichai, then you get into an interest that I would like to have a devotion towards Emperuman. And then Ruchi, then you are enjoying that particular one. And Parabhakti is sometimes that you have a happiness, or you have always been with Emperuman, and sometimes you are away from Emperuman and you have a happiness and sorrow combined. And then the last one is a Paramabhakti, where you have a permanent happiness of being with Emperuman. These are 7 stages. Again, I've mentioned it very, very shortly. But Andal, at the age of 6 or 7 years of age, normally this takes more than 35 years. That's what comparison of Purvacharya tells, no? The one which happens in that. And she got into this one in the age of 7 years, and then she had the great bhakti towards Kannan, and she started to write these pashurams and the poems about Kannan, and she wants to reach to Kannan by any means. And that is the interest and the devotion that she showed, both in Thiruppavai as well as in the Nachiyar Thirumoli. One can think of how it can happen in the 7 years of this age. No, why not? Because even in the Kali Yugam, we are talking about stories of kids of 5 years old solving a PhD mathematics problem, and child prodigy. Why can't Andal was a child prodigy many years ago under Priyalvar, and she in a very childhood itself, she had that jnanam of getting and great devotion towards Emperuman. That is the greatness of Andal. And she also followed the greatest thing the Acharyas tell about. She didn't show that one, she is a Bhumi Piratiyar and she can do everything with her power. No, she left all the happiness of Sri Vaikuntham, and she was born as a normal human being, and she lived like a human being, and she took all other adiyars. That means whenever you are going and praying Emperuman, you should go together with all the adiyars. Emperuman likes all of them together coming and praying. And so she did. In Thiruppavai, we will see that one. She takes all her friends and she requests them to join her into this Vridam, and then takes them together, and she follows a procedure of steps, what she should be doing in order to reach Emperuman. They tell that Vaikundam Vanbohan Tannai Igazhந்து. Vaikuntham, Sri Vaikuntham, she can always stay in the Sri Vaikuntham, and then she could have given the Anugraham to Jivatmas. But she left all those, the permanent happiness of being in the Vaikuntham, and she got born into this world, and in order to show that mercy and the kindness of, that's the great kindness, and we call it out as a karuna for what she had on Jivatmas. And that is the greatness of Andal herself, and the greatness of Thiruppavai itself. It is 30 Pashurams, but she has structured that into a way that one, the 5 first Pashurams, she has split it up as a Mangalasasanam to Emperuman. The 5 forms of Emperuman, which we will see it out in each of those Pashurams. So she has the first 5 Pashurams for Emperuman's Mangalasasanam. Then the next 10 Pashurams that she wakes up her friends. They are the representatives of more than the 5 lakhs Iyer party girls, because Kannan was always with all these girls and he enjoyed that environment in the Iyer body, and she wanted to recreate that one in Sri Valliputtur. So she had a representative 10 females. She goes and wake them up in the early morning of this Margazhi month to chant this Tirunamam of Emperuman and get the Anugraham of Kannan. And then she doesn't go directly to the Kannan. So she goes to the Jaya Vijaya, which is the protectors on the doors, who opens the doors and who is in front of the door of the Tirumalikai of Emperuman. And so she prays to them to open the door. And then she goes and prays the parents of Kannan, Nandagopar and Yashoda. And then she goes to the Piratiyar, Nappinai Piratiyar. And then only finally she goes and wakes up Kannan. And through this, she shows how we should go and pray. We should always pray our Acharyas and the Acharyas who are here, who are the true bhaktas of Emperuman. And then from there, you have to go to the Muktas, who are there in the Vaikuntham. Then the Nityas, who are like all the like Sangha Chakram and all those ayudams of Emperuman. And also they are the Nitya Kainkaryam. They are doing all the Nitya Kainkaryam with Emperuman. And then Piratiyar, and then you should go to Kannan. This is the way Alvars have sing about, also the way, and the Shastras are telling, and then Andal followed that footsteps of how one should pray towards Emperuman. This is how she has structured, and the greatness of Thiruppavai. So it is a very, very summarized Avatharikai. I didn't want to give it in a shortest form and to understand, but this is the essence of what is the core root of Thiruppavai. One should remember it is coming from the Varaha Charitram, and then later the greatness of Andal being a child. She is a child prodigy, and even in 6 to 7 years of age, she had the great bhakti that one attains in a very later stage of age. And she attained it so fast, and that's where, and she also showed what should be the bhakti that we should show in a proper way. She involved all the other Acharyas during this Thiruppavai chanting, and then she started to do that pratham, and we will see it in that first Pashurams, why she started to do that pratham, and what is the structure of those pratham, and how she decided to do that one in the first Pashurams. And we will enjoy each of those Pashurams and the inner meanings. When we talk about Thiruppavai, as Adiyan mentioned, it has got an ocean depth of meanings of each word has got that ocean depth. Adiyan will try to give as simple and without losing that context of that Pashurams for us to understand in an easy way. But Purvacharyas have explained, as Adiyan specified. Adiyan will make a humble try to simplify that and providing that, but without losing any of the greatness of those Pashurams. From the next part, we will see, first we will start with Taniyan. Taniyan is something that it's like about author when you read a book. So when you read a book, preface is one side and another one is about author and the greatness of the author. In this case, the greatness of Andal, as well as that particular book. It is the introduction that always every Prabandham will have. Every Alvar has got a Taniyan Sloham, and Taniyan is very important because that is the greatness, and we thank them through that Taniyan, and understanding that they have made an effort to give those Prabandham and Taniyan. So we will have a short meaning of those Taniyans, and we will start with the first Pashuram from the next part. And this is a very small introduction about Thiruppavai in this particular part. We will start enjoying that in the next 30 days, about each of the day, one Pashuram, and also chanting this Thiruppavai on these 30 days is really, as Adiyan mentioned, makes us useful being in this particular world, at least these 30 days. If not for all these 365 days, we are able to do that one. Margazhi month is an opportunity given to us to chant this Thiruppavai and get the blessings of Perivaratiyar and Srimaan Narayanan. Let's start with the Pashurams in the next part or the meaning. Adiyan will end up this introductory session here. Srimati Ramanujaya Namaha. Alvargal Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Emperumanar Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Iyer Tiruvadigalai Sharanam, Acharyas Swami Tiruvadigalai Sharanam.